And the truth is, we all know what the reality is on ground. So let's fix it. Let's not fixate so much on perception. Obviously, perception is important, you know, and the people who work on that, they exist already. There are already enough of them. We don't need more of them. We need problem solvers, not more, PR people. We have enough PR people, you know.
Which reminds me of your TED talk on Wakanda.
Death to Wakanda. That was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, saying death to Wakanda isn't something that would be easy for people to grasp unless we unpack that for them. But most of the times, and I think, I can also confess that I've been a victim of this, right? The fact that I go like, Africa is rich in resources, and the map that, has African countries, with the resources that they have. And then we go like, we can be rich because you have resources, right? But then when you unpacked it on the TED Talk, I was like, this makes a lot of sense, right? And you are speaking about how, Africa is only viewed in terms of resources. The same thing that has been depicted in Wakanda Forever.
Exactly.
Right? And that is why I'm saying, in as much as, it's good to tell the stories and, have individuals like Wodemaya doing amazing job telling all these amazing stories, but we can't deny the fact that there's also reality, right? And Julius Nyerere put it well when he said, you cannot solve the problems that you deny exist.
Exactly.
And Wakanda, death to Wakanda.
So, for those who don't know, what I basically the point of that TED Talk was that there is an obsessive focus on the things that are buried in the ground in Africa. The diamonds, the tin, lithium, cobalt,
crude oil,
gold, crude oil, all of those things, nickel, copper.
The diamonds.
That basically, yes, those things do have some value. But the point is, what really has value is people, because it is people that process those things and turn those things into more valuable things. If you are not developing people and you are just focused exclusively on those things, all you are ever going to get is the raw material prices for those things. And that the raw material prices, regardless of whatever we may think, the prices for those raw materials will never be set by the places the raw materials come from. The prices that we pay for those raw materials are always determined by where there is demand for them. So it's the factories that determine how much the mines get paid, not the other way around. So it's the people who buy those resources from Asia, from Europe, from North America. Those are the people who get to determine how much you will get for your gold, your cobalt, your nickel, your copper, your lithium, whatever it is. So the point of that TED Talk was, African people and African governments need to start seeing 1.2 billion Africans as the continent's primary resource, right? Europe is not a resource-rich continent in terms of natural resources, right? Obviously, there are a few outliers like Norway, which have like crude oil and whatnot. But look at a country like Germany or the UK. What resources do they have?
You don't even hear them.
What resources do they have? Finland. Is it fish? What resources do they have? And yet those guys have the highest standards of living in the world. Why do they have that?
That's a good question.
Part of the reason, obviously, is exploitation of Africa. We know that. But a larger part of the reason is that they have human capital.
Which they value.
Exactly.
And treasure.
Human capital. That's it. It's as simple as that. Human capital. Which is what, and we have humans, but we lack human capital. We have 1.2 billion people, but how many of them are developed?
I mean, I think a lot of things that you're saying right now remind me of what Nyerere was saying, right? One of the things he also said was that when he was trying to define development, he said development to us isn't buildings or roads. That is part of it.
Yeah.
But the most part of it is that for us, development should be in developing our own people.
Exactly.
Which we are not doing.
Exactly.
Like, we just keep on speaking about, Africa is going to have the largest population by, 2030. But that population doing what?
Yeah, in Nigeria, as I was telling you prior to the recording, it's now established that Nigeria has huge reserves of lithium. And because of the electric vehicle production boom, lithium is now becoming a very in-demand resource. And trust the Nigerian government, they've seen dollar signs in lithium. So the solid mineral ministry has become the new hot thing in town. It used to be the petroleum ministry, but now it's the solid minerals ministry. because that's now the new hot ticket. Meanwhile, at the same time, while everyone is focusing on digging lithium out of the ground, the same Nigerian government is telling Nigerian students that they can no longer fund universities, and universities have to hike their fees by a factor of 5 or 6. And there's this. If you check my Twitter, there's this horrible videos that have been going around, students protesting and crying. Like, do they want the poor to drop out? And I'm like, yeah, they do. Basically,
That's what they're saying.
pretty much, because this is the next generation of people who are going to give the country any kind of hope. And you are basically telling them you cannot fund their education, you cannot fund their development, their human capital development. So why does the government exist?
Like, what are they developing?
Why does a government exist? What is the primary function of a government? It's to provide services to people.
Save your people.
Certain services, justice, security, some measure of health and education, and a framework with which to achieve self-actualization. That's the purpose of a government. You're not doing that. You're not doing that. The justice, are you providing it? Security, are you providing it? The enabling environment, are you providing it? The infrastructure, the healthcare now, the education, which is the last thing, the only thing which has made Nigeria relatively competitive, especially on the global stage, is subsidized education. That's the one thing Nigeria has ever had going for it. Not crude oil, not anything else. Subsidized education. And I can prove this with numbers. So as at 2022, well, let me go back to 2019 because the numbers became a bit fuzzy as the years went by. Between crude oil and diaspora remittances, which do you think earned more forex for Nigeria in 2019, 2020?
Diaspora.
Diaspora remittances. As much as crude oil makes money, diaspora remittances made more, significantly more. Why are there diaspora remittances? Because Nigerians are able to travel and work.
Everywhere.
Why are they able
in the
to
world.
work? Because they are internationally competitive, because they were able to access subsidized education at home. It's as simple as that. You are taking that away, you are killing your own economy in the future, basically. Because you're not going to have future, young people who later immigrate to send remittances home. And then the young people who are here, you're not giving them the ability to do anything for themselves. And then you see them making statements like, vocational education. When they say vocational education, they're not talking about coding or something. They're talking about like shoemaking, hairdressing, tailors, carpenters.
Soap making.
Yeah. That's what they're talking about. Cake baking. Bead making. That kind of shit. So this is the reality, right? That when you have, and this is not just a Nigerian problem, I think it's an African problem. African countries focus so much on the wealth they think they have under the soil, and they completely fail to understand that thing under the soil is not wealth. That thing is just dirt. What gives it any value is what people do with it. And if the only people who can do something with it are located in Europe or in Asia, why on earth would they give you what you consider to be a fair price for it? Why would they? If I were in their shoes, I wouldn't either. It's not in my interest.
It's like I want to make the maximum profit I possibly can.
Exactly.
And I give you the lowest price I possibly can.
So, and this thinking permeates the Nigerian state specifically. It permeates, for example, Nigeria is a country which it's been estimated Nigeria needs at least 100,000 megawatts of electricity to escape poverty. How many megawatts of electricity is the Nigerian grid able to wheel out on a regular basis? Just guess.
Let's go with at least maybe around 10%.
5,000. So 5%, right? So
Jesus.
now that's one data point, right? Now the second data point, Nigeria has some of the largest gas reserves in the world. And obviously, gas is like a very reliable source of energy for, power plants, right? So the obvious thing is that the Nigerian government should be looking for how to develop those gas reserves to build power plants, basically to industrialize Nigeria. That should be it. Instead, what is the Nigerian government looking to do with its gas? It wants to build a pipeline to supply to Europe.
We are going back to the story of Niger.
Yeah. It wants to build that's it. So instead of seeing the bigger picture that if you add 100,000 megawatts to Nigeria's power supply, you are going to add $2 or $3 trillion to the Nigerian GDP. Right? And you are going to instead of doing that, you want to make $40 or $50 billion a year from selling gas to Europe.
Short-term vision.
Very short-sighted.
Minds are here.
So that's what I mean when I said death to Wakanda. That shit needs to die. It actually does.